today I will be analyzing another game that I actually played just minutes ago. This game is a great example for how to attack, how to take advantage of an opening trap your opponent may or may not fall into, and then to eventually checkmate. So here, I was playing with the white pieces, and as you guys know, or you might not know, but I am a Queen's Gambit player. I play it a lot. Especially when I'm white. If my opponent plays Queen's Gambit, it's a different story, but 80% of the time when I'm white, I will play Queen's Gambit. So here, this was actually a 10-minute game. So it was, as you guys see, it was a 10-minute game. So obviously it's not, a really long game, but it's long enough that you have some time to think for every move. You have some time to think, and after you think, you can play probably the most accurate moves. So this time allows for a little bit more of more accuracy. 58% is not amazing. But, as you can see, my opponent did not play very well. He fell into an opening trap very early in the game, and pretty much I never let go. And so here, I'll show you guys how it worked. Here's some of the details. I did have a few missed wins here and there, but nothing of that sort very, very big. So we'll see. This is actually my first time analyzing it, so here we go. So it started out with d4, d5, and I opened out with c4 with the traditional Queen's Gambit line. And he actually plays a martial defense, which is not very common. The best move in this line, if your opponent ever plays this, is to actually just take. Oftentimes we feel very inclined to play knight c3, knight f3, and just put more pressure on the center. The best move here is actually to just take, and I'll show you why. Because we take and he takes back, and now we get another. We use another move. We're controlling the center, and he has to waste a move by just retreating back to his starting spot. So it's just not a very good move for him to play knight f6 in the first place off of Queen's Gambit. And you will also see later in the game that there are plenty of weaknesses that can add on if your opponent falls into an opening trap, and he actually did in this situation, and we'll see that in a few moves. The game continued like this, and you can see by the computer that knight b4 is not a great move. Computer wants it to just retreat back. We have this move here, and it's so this is where your opponent might fall into this trap, where your opponent doesn't really want to retreat back because he knows he's wasting a move, so he's trying to make progress. But the best move is to actually just retreat back, and your opponents may not know this, but it's just a good trap to keep in mind when you're playing the Queen's Gambit, especially if your opponent plays knight f6 off of the first move. Immediately after c4. So he tries to make progress, and the best move here is queen a4. The point is, we're trying to, this knight it's not great for him to go back, because, first of all, if he goes back, he's blocking this knight from coming out, this knight b8, this knight b8 knight that's sort of resting here. He can't come out anymore, and also we have this very interesting pin, and we just win material here. So that's a cool line that I thought was very interesting. I played queen a4, and he brings out the other knight. There's still this interesting move where you just push d5 because there is a pin right now. There's other moves sort of like that, where you could actually just push a3 and get that knight out of the way, because this knight is sort of defending the other knight. But I just decided to play the best move, d5. And this is a mistake. The best move is to just take this pawn because the computer says I just take back. After this, I just take back, and he just gets the queen. So I get a knight for 2 pawns, which is winning, completely winning, and more development comes after this, and he has to waste another move moving his queen back. So we have the lead in development after these moves. So it said, so here's back to the line that I played. He decided to make a really interesting move. I was like, oh no. Because this knight is actually threatening a fork. If I take with the queen, there was a little hope chess involved for him. Oh no, that would not be good. There was a little hope chess involved for him. Maybe he was hoping that I would take with the queen so he could fork me and win my rook. But we can just take with the bishop. After this, it's just completely winning for me. He's in this wonderful and absolutely really cool pin. Now this trick doesn't work anymore, taking this pawn, because I just take back, and he actually cannot take this pawn with the queen anymore, because he actually just loses a rook here, or actually a queen, because it's check. It's a sort of a family fork here. So that's just a really cool line. So that trick doesn't work anymore for him. So I'm just completely winning. So I just take the pawn. And the best move, actually, computer says to just ignore it. But he plays, and most opponents, I've actually experienced this trap quite a bit before, most opponents are very inclined to play d7. And this is not, it's an inaccuracy. And if your opponent actually doesn't play this correctly, like this guy did, we'll see that in the next few moves, he actually loses another piece, which just solidifies my win here. And so I actually just take here, and he actually takes back with the knight. Bishop taking back is better. The point is, if he takes back with the bishop, and I take here, he actually has to take back with the knight, or else he blocks with the queen and tries to hope that I can fork him, but that doesn't really work. So it's completely losing either way. So he takes back with the knight. I actually just wanted another piece, which is really nice. He decides to move his rook, and I just take the queen, and we just force a queen trade. I just force a queen trade. The game actually continued like this, so there's nothing special about the next 5 or 10 moves, so I'll just play it through. So I actually tried to attack the rook. I didn't see that pawn was hanging, so that's just a note. I'm still completely winning. There's nothing scary about his attack. And he's just trying to put more pressure on my bishop. This is still defended. It's just not looking good for him. So I put more pressure on his rook, and he actually leaves his rook hanging. So I just take that rook. And I actually take back with the pawn. You might say, oh, well, that gives you a weak pawn. Well, when you're up this much material, it's okay to, do what you want. We're up 10 points here. We also have 2 centralized knights, which can really cause some trouble here later in the game. So I don't really want to worry about that. Retreating my knight. It's not, even though the computer says knight takes e3 is best, I just wanted my knights to be centralized. He moves his king, and the game actually continued like this. I castled here. notice how his king sort of walked into this little trap here. He has minimal squares now that my rook is restricting him. So that's just something to note. So going back, actually, there's actually one more thing. You don't always castle just because you want your king to be safe, whereas in this situation, I actually just castled just to sort of restrict his king's ability. I know, it is a 10-minute game, so there's no worry about running out on time or him, flagging me, but I just wanted to be extra safe. So he takes with the rook. I bring my knight back in. Obviously, computer wants me to take that free pawn, but, I'm up so much material anyways, I don't really need to. I just push the pawn here. My next idea was to maybe bring the knight to e2 check, and the game actually continued like this. Check, check. I just wanted to bring my pawn up just to limit his squares. If he allows me to push here, then his king is sort of stuck in the center, and mate will be delivered very soon. So he pushes his pawn to give himself an escape square. I just take that pawn, and he blundered here. It's just a blunder. And apparently, computer says I had the win. The point is, we actually had mate in 10. I didn't see that. I'm not the computer. I don't always see mate in 10. So that was a missed win. But my idea was I just want to get it down here, get the knight to e7. He blunders actually again, and we have mate in 6 now. So knight e7 is a small inaccuracy, but it still delivers mate in 8. So he goes to his king goes to h6. To believe it or not, I actually had another mate. I could move back here and deliver mate in 8, but I missed it. And he blundered actually again. I pushed my pawn again, and here is kind of where I messed up a little bit. He gets this nice fork, so I just take the pawn. I check him actually, so his only move is to go here, king g7 or g6. Sorry. I check him again, and we actually have just mate in 2. This rook is actually defended by the knight, so nothing to worry about. He moves again. We check him again, and there's a winning move here. It's probably very easy to spot, but I just want you guys to maybe try to find it. A rook and knight checkmate is very important to have down, to have mastered, to know when and where they pop up. So just pause the video. Okay, I hope you were able to find the checkmate. Of course, the checkmate is rook e7, and he's just out of squares. He cannot take this rook because it is defended by the knight. And so this was a very interesting game. And this is we go back to the analysis. If your opponent plays knight f6 off of c4, this is what's amazing about the Queen's Gambit. If your opponent doesn't play this correctly, you just get this. You can also get material advantage, but you're almost guaranteed a huge space advantage. And so actually my opponent allowed both. We got this huge space advantage with e5, or E4 with this just amazing super center. We have this square, this square, this square, and this square controlled now. Basically, the entire board is controlled with these two pawns. So, and then even if I just want to show you guys. So first of all he allowed us to get a ton of space, and then he actually blundered the next move with Queen A4. So he allowed us to get more space, and he allowed us to get material, which allowed me to win the game by checkmate later on. So the best move actually for him is to retreat, and even then we just have this huge space advantage. We can play normal development, and you can see by the computer we have a slight advantage. We're just completely winning here. There's nothing special about the way we're playing this. It's just we're controlling the center, and we're getting out our pieces with rapid development. And if you do those two things, you have a big shot at winning the game. And I actually want to go forward. The winning move actually is to push, like I did. So remember, also, not only do you want to gain a big center, you also want to gain space. You want to gain material if you can. And frankly, you want to use tactics to your advantage. There is a pin going on here. This is a very nice pin along this diagonal right here with the king and the queen. This knight is sort of blocking it. So use those pins to your advantage, because those pins and forks can allow you to gain material, which can solidify your win. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the video. Subscribe to Alexi's channel. Comment down below if you have an idea for his channel, for material that you want him to post on. Visit his profile on chess.com. Have a great day.